YouTube, welcome back to the channel. This is Nathan Daly, and I have another reaction to a very, very disturbing case out of Massachusetts. Now listen, this one is interesting for a lot of different reasons. For those who know me know I cannot stand criminals, especially those who commit sex crimes against people. And this one is very interesting because this is a case that has now resurfaced. It was a case that went cold, and now new evidence has brought a magnifying glass and the apprehension of a suspect from 2008. You guys, this is crazy, but I'm gonna tell you what's interesting about it, and also gonna tell you some things that you need to be paying attention to as we evolve with our science. Best believe a lot of these cold cases are gonna be unraveled, and people are going to be facing consequences and held accountable, as they should, after they have moved on in their life, right? They've changed their world around. They committed all these heinous crimes in their younger 20s and their early teenage years, and they felt like they've gotten away with it. But thanks to technology and other things at the disposal of law enforcement, they are being snatched up as adults. They've started families, they've married, and so forth and so on. You guys, this is a beautiful tool, but also a dangerous tool, and I'm going to tell you why. They are now using genealogy testing to uncover crimes of the past. It's a beautiful tool, and I think it's necessary. Obviously, it's a tool that can be abused, but let's talk about it. I have two clips I want to show you guys. This is crazy, but once I give you this backstory, this is in reference to the suspect by the name of Matthew Nilo. As we know, innocent until proven guilty, but let's talk about how he was apprehended, what he's being charged with, which is rape, and how they were able to find this information out. Is this a slam dunk for prosecution? I don't know, but I will say it's not looking good for him, and I will tell you why. Let's take a look at this news clip, and then I want to get you guys' thoughts on it.
New at 11 now, a Manhattan-based lawyer pleading not guilty to rape charges in Boston from more than a decade ago. The charges come out of 4 unsolved cases in 2007 and 8 in the Boston area where he lived at the time.
Investigators say they used DNA technology to link him to each of the cases. He was under surveillance when investigators tracked corporate Manhattan attorney Matthew Nilo down at an event, swooping in and grabbing DNA from his utensils and the glass he drank from.
How do you plead to those offenses?
His fiancée watching, clutching rosary beads as prosecutors accused him of raping 3 women as many as 16 years ago.
All right. So let's break that down. 16 years ago, they are alleging that he committed rape against 3 or 4 women. Well, fast forward, here we go a decade later, you guys, what? He's a corporate attorney. He's married, he's successful, he's living in New York. He's living his best life. Well, guess what? They are saying that this man has some skeletons in his closet. And we are opening that closet, and what did we find? We find that he is allegedly the suspect of sex crimes. You know, this is interesting, and I think this is going to open the door for a more necessary conversation about the lives that people have lived in the past, and they are now catching up to them. You know, you're that frat boy, and you got this girl drunk, or you're the frat boy, and you committed these crimes, and now guess what? You may have left some hair follicles, some DNA behind, and now we have the technology to figure and put it all together. I don't care what you're doing in the future. We are going to address it, and we're going to hold you accountable. You guys, this is interesting.
They also say he tried to attack a 4th. August 18th, 2007, his first reported case.
The male told her to shut up or he would kill her, and that he had a weapon.
November 22nd, 2007, a second one.
Where he ordered the victim out of the car, knocked her to the ground, and raped her.
Then, August 5th, 2008, a third rape.
That kit yielded a male DNA profile, which was matched to the unknown male profile from the previous 2.
December 23, 2008, a 4th woman was able to stop her attacker. Prosecutors say the DNA from a glove shows another likely link.
Okay, so he's been raping women. back to back to back to back. And what's funny is they're saying that the rape kit that they were able to do on one of the victims was able to link the profile, the male profile, to the other incident. That's how they were able to create a profile and say, hey, these cases are related. And then on the fourth case, he attempted to rape another woman, but she fought off and she got free. But he left a glove behind. And in that glove was an additional piece of evidence linking him to the other women. You guys, this is powerful. And this is great police work. My heart goes out to the victims and other rape victims that are out here, you guys. It is, it's an unspeakable crime against a person. I've investigated a couple, and it's very difficult to do. And I don't like these crimes because it does something to me where I am in straight villain mode, and I want to apprehend the suspect. And these crimes are very hard to solve. And so I think that this is so important that they're talking about this, and I'm excited of the outcome. So this is how the evidence was collected. Now they're going to tell you and talk to you about how they were able to match this male profile with Matthew Nilo, what they were able to do. And this is the advancement that I think is so important for you guys to hear about. And I think there's going to be more cases like this solved.
It was a technique called DNA genealogy that brought investigators to Nilo. It uses relatives' DNA to find suspects, and Nilo's defense attorney now calling that into question.
I do understand that the procedures used by law enforcement are somewhat suspect. It seems that they obtain DNA evidence without ever obtaining a search warrant.
So he's saying that they obtained evidence without search warrant. That's false. Is their method legal? Yes. For those who watched my video on the breakdown of the case with Brian Kohlberger, this is exactly the same technique they used to try to identify him. He left his DNA at the scene, but they did not know who the DNA belonged to. This genealogy direction that they're using, genealogy testing, what are they talking about? So you guys are familiar with the different DNA genealogy testing that they have out here. That is 23andMe, right? That is Ancestry.com. Those are two big ones. And there's some other ones that they use. You guys, what are they talking about? People out of excitement, which to me, I saw this coming a mile away. This is all part of the grand scheme of the plan of trying to, hey, take your samples of your DNA and submit it to some random lab you don't know about. And we're going to tell you where your family is, where you come from. We'll tell you if there's any family members that you don't know about in the US or abroad. So, but this requires people to use it. That means a bunch of people have to send in their DNA, they examine it, and they link you to people that you didn't know. There's a show, a documentary about, I think it's called like Our Father or something like that. For those who haven't seen it, not to give it away, but it talks about this doctor, a gynecologist, I believe. He was a fertility doctor. He was using his sperm to impregnate women who were looking for sperm at a sperm bank, and ultimately had all these kids all over the place. You guys, it was these ancestry tests that allowed people to find out that they were connected to multiple people because of what he was doing, the crime that he committed. So these genealogy testings, now law enforcement is using it as a way to solve these crimes. So what's actually happening? You have a sample of somebody's DNA. You then take it and you submit it to these databases for law enforcement purposes. They turn around, because I'm somewhere in small print, it's probably like, you allow law enforcement to do this, right? That's basically how it works. And they find a match to a relative, right? So they take that DNA and they say, hey, this DNA matches these sets of relatives. And so now what do? As officers, we have so many tools, you guys, so many investigative tools that we can use to find out who are relatives of this relative that matches the DNA, if that makes sense. So for example, say the DNA matches Nilo's father, right? Nilo Sr. Well, we know that maybe Nilo's a potential match, but we have the full DNA match and it doesn't fully match Nilo. So what we do is we say, we're going to match this amongst his kids. Say Nilo Sr. has 3 boys and 1 daughter. Okay, well then as investigators, in order to find the whole match, now that I know that related to his family, it could be an uncle, it could be the siblings. What do? I start narrowing down my investigation based on what's probable. I find out that Nilo Sr. actually lives at the time in Boston where these rapes occurred. Okay, well then I know Nilo Sr. has four boys. Okay, cool. Well, I want to know during that time, did any of his boys live in this area? Okay, say 3 of them did at the time, during the time those rapes occurred. And then I look at, okay, the description that was given to me by the victims. Okay, cool. My job now is to get a sample of each one of the boys' DNA to see if I can get a 100% match. How do you do it? Well, they explained it here in the video, and another video I'm gonna show you, is that now the FBI are saying all we need them to do is get discarded DNA. Anything that you have that you no longer use and you throw away, put in the trash, there's no right to privacy, and it's not a violation of your 4th Amendment right. So what they do is they wait for them to discard something like a glass, a cigarette, anything where their DNA will be on. And once you discard it, you no longer have rights to it. And they're going to tell you how they were able to obtain his DNA that they took from a glass that they matched with the DNA evidence that was found during the rape. And they brought those two things together, and that's how they got the positive match. They took out the warrants, and then they arrested him. You guys, this is great police work. Now, the question of his attorney, that the evidence was acquired illegally. No, it wasn't, right? They went and got a discarded glass. Cool. The evidence that was taken from the ancestry or the genealogy test group, that's a private company that volunteers and gives out their information to the police. I don't know what the small print writing is that they're probably going to try to challenge. But again, anybody who volunteered their information to these corporations, they have now put their business out there for this type of thing to happen, you guys. This is very interesting. I haven't seen this challenged in court. This is something that's new. Fairly new. I haven't had an opportunity to experience this from a trial-based and investigative perspective. So this is interesting to see how this happens. And again, this is also how they located Brian Kohlberger, connecting the DNA through genealogy. So they're going to talk about real quick how they found it, just for clarity, so you guys will know.
Nilo's bail is set at $500,000. He would have to wear a GPS monitor and stay away from the area where the rapes happened.
Okay, so let me play the next clip, because this breaks down a lot more about the DNA evidence, how they located it, and the investigation behind it.
Matthew Nilo, an attorney by trade, in a Massachusetts court defending himself against allegations he is a serial rapist.
How do you plead to those offenses? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Nilo appeared stunned at times as prosecutors laid out their case, alleging that about 15 years ago, he raped 3 women and tried to rape a 4th. Prosecutors say the attacks occurred in Boston's historic Charlestown neighborhood. The victims, they say, between 23 and 44 years old at the time. Nilo, who is now 35, faces 3 counts of aggravated rape, 2 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of assault with intent to rape, and 1 count of indecent assault and battery.
Investigators never stop analyzing evidence, collecting information, and running down leads in order to bring dangerous offenders to justice.
Prosecutors say the investigation went cold for over a decade until last year, when investigators were able to link DNA from the crimes to a genealogy database and zero in on Nilo, who had since moved from Boston and was living in New Jersey. They put him under surveillance and got the DNA sample they needed to make an arrest.
FBI agents were able to obtain various utensils and drinking glasses they watched the defendant use at a corporate event.
Nilo was arrested at this apartment building in Weehawken, New Jersey last week. We tried to speak to his fiancée who lives here.
Ooh, I feel for the fiance. I'm gonna tell you guys, there is a high probability that he did it. What are they gonna try to argue? The reason why I say that is because there was a rape kit that was done. on the victims over, what was it, 15 years ago? So the rape kit was done. The DNA extracted from that rape kit. It could be blood, it could be semen, it could be saliva, it could be anything. Then the DNA from the glove, the trace evidence from the glove, they found his DNA. So they have a DNA, they have the sample of a DNA that belongs to somebody. The question is, how did they link his to his? Now it's a match, or they would not have gotten a warrant to be able to secure his arrest. They were able to match the DNA. Only thing that his attorney is going to be able to do is argue the how it was done and whether or not it was done legally. That's it, you guys. This looks like a match. This looks like a match. So, wow, this is interesting. And, you know, this also is a cautionary tale, though, because people voluntarily give away the most private things about them, their DNA, their retina, their fingerprint, even their face, you guys. This is just the beginning. And a lot of us don't really see the writing on the wall. I see it. You know, I have seen the usage of equipment from a law enforcement perspective, and I worked at the bottom of it, right? I can only imagine when you go higher up through law enforcement and the federal government, what tools they have. I've seen some tools, you guys, from facial recognition to voice, fingerprint to retina. You guys, and now you have DNA that people have voluntarily give. How many of you guys listening right now have used 23andMe or Ancestry.com? Well, your DNA's out there. Well, cuckoo. Guess what? You mess around out here and get found out. They're going to connect the dots. They're going to connect it with or without your permission. And for those who never read the fine print about that genealogy stuff, I'm pretty sure in there it says that they're allowed to use your information for whatever other reasons. A lot of us don't read the fine print. The problem with these tools of investigation is when it falls in the hands of people who want to use it for nefarious purposes, when the government decides it wants to push the envelope and they want to straddle the fence on our Fourth Amendment privileges. You guys, that's when these tools become weapons against the people that they were designed to protect. So very, 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 very interesting case, cautionary tale. It's good when you have good tools when they're used by good people. What are your thoughts on this case? We all know it's innocent until proven guilty. But the feds are on it. It looks like a slam dunk. I wonder what his family are thinking. And are there other evidence they can use to support this case? Absolutely. It's such a strong piece of evidence when you have DNA, semen inside of a woman, saliva on the body, hair follicles, and things like that. Sir, how did your semen get here? How did it get here? What are you gonna say? But he's looking in the courtroom like, I can only imagine the judge reading them charges. He's probably like, how in the world did they catch me? How in the world did they catch me? Oh, well, cuckoo, my dude. You guys know me. I'm harsh. You know, I think rapists should be castrated. That's just me. And for those who don't know, you'd have to really investigate or be a part of one of these. And to those who have been victims of it, I know what it's like to just hear the stories and you know, showing up at the hospitals and investigating these things. It's not cool. It's absolutely not a good feeling. And it's such a violation. It's such a violation. And so what is the proper punishment for rape? And this is a serial rapist. You tell me, what's the proper punishment? In the comment section, I say castration. That's me. I'm harsh. You know, I'm old school, you know, Sumerian, old school, traditional, Babylonian law, right? Like eye for an eye. I'm rough with it, you guys. So I don't like it. I don't like these type of crimes. And so anyways, let me know your thoughts, you guys, on this. Should they be allowed to use the DNA from these genealogy testings to solve crimes? Are you guys okay with that? For those who have taken these type of tests, do you agree with it? Do you think there still needs to be investigation, or do you think the DNA found from the rape kits is enough? What are your thoughts? I'm just curious overall. Anyways, you guys, with that, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And with that, good night. God bless.